Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy. Joining me this morning, Hartwell. Good morning.
Good morning, Hartwell. Good
Well,
morning, everyone. Good morning, Kris.
I did say good morning
Oh,
to you. You don't have to say good morning to yourself. um, so this
wakey,
morning,
wakey.
this morning, our subject is the Codon Ring of Water. It consists of gene key 2 and 8. What can you tell us about the Codon Ring of Water?
Well, apparently it is the most feminine of the rings. This has to do, 2 and 8 are two of the great feminine gene keys, and they have a lot of implications for, the shifts that are going on in the world right now. Um, they set the blueprint for the balance of all opposing forces within us. Um, and together with the Ring of Fire, which we haven't got to yet, they move us along the trajectory of our life. So they're pretty important.
Mhm. So, can you tell us about number 2? Like, what is
I
so
would,
special about number 2? Because we all know that you're special and it's a part of your incarnation cross. So, what do you got for us?
well, I do like two. Two is my grounding point, the earth in my
Mhm.
chart. And it has got to do with the journey from dislocation to unity via the way of orientation. We're talking about the amino acid phenylalanine here, and we're also talking about two gates that appear in the G center of the chart. So two is that place in us. You see, um, there's what is called the magnetic monopole in human design, which is a very interesting idea because normally we think of poles. A magnet is having two poles, a north and a south. But when this information first came to Ra, it told him this is a monopole. It's a magnetic energy that has only one direction. Okay, and this is related to the two because the direction of the self, which is the name of the gate in human design, is in gate 2. The center, the thing that pulls us along the trajectory of our fate is gene key 2. So at the shadow level, we feel dislocated, lost. Um, and I mean, I can tell you from experience that I've spent a lot of time in that space. There's that sense of um, where am I? I don't know. I haven't got my bearings. I feel lost. I don't know what the storyline is. I don't know what's going on.
Right. But is that
And
only for people that have that gene key? Because I feel like that and I don't have that gene key. So, like, like I've felt like that many times.
well, I think most of us will resonate with all of the gene keys, whether it's in our design or not. Because
Hmm.
remember, we meet with people who impact us, and we also have an experience through the transits of each one of the 64. So, I mean, that's a really good question. Well, I resonate with that. That feels like something that I've had an experience of.
Hmm.
Um, my experience is that there's certain ones that impact me particularly deeply. But
Hmm.
I mean, I can find it in myself to kind of have an experience of each one of the 64.
Hmm.
So that would be my answer to that, Kris. But the
Okay.
two is the feeling that the fear in the two is the sense that we're going in a bad direction, that the
Hmm.
universe is an unfriendly place, that it's about chaos. Um, it's about being scared of nature. And I mean, but on the opposite side is, we look out at indigenous cultures, at least the myth that we have of a time when we all lived in communion with nature, and we long for that. And we think, what? Well, we're lost now. We're like, We don't know what's going on.
Well, that's part of, when we were meeting the other night, on Sunday night in the Mystic Christian um, tea circle that we had, and when the lady who was speaking was mentioning how the roots of the Bible or of God actually are rooted in nature, in shamanism, like where people would see the signs, they would know, like when they saw a bird flying south, what that meant. And they
Yeah,
felt,
yeah.
like they had a direction because nature and God was guiding them, right? But people don't have that anymore, lots of us.
Yes. And this is the province of the two, the great feminine.
Hmm.
We feel cut off from life, we feel cut off from nature. Um, and we have this fear that we will destroy our planet.
Mm.
I mean, I like what Richard Rudd says here. It's like, oh, I would love to hold on to that, Richard, and
Hmm.
he says, no, we are a part of nature, whether we feel it or not, and we will not destroy ourselves. And it's like, well, I've had a lot of fear around humanity destroying the planet. And
Hmm.
at the level of orientation, which is the gift, there is the sense that we all live within a universal field and we are being drawn inevitably along the evolutionary path that has somehow been set for us by God, by
Hmm.
nature, by life, and that there is no way that we can ever be lost.
So whether it's dragging us, kicking and screaming, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're going. Is that what you mean?
Well, we're a part of life too, Chris, even though we so often feel not that we aren't.
Hmm.
And so it's not dragging us from the outside as if we are separate from it and not part of it. It is within us. And so, you know, the
Yeah, I meant the
magnetite,
conscious part, right? Whether we're conscious of it happening to us or not, we're going, right?
yes,
That's what you're saying.
yes,
Yeah.
indeed. And there's a great comfort in that.
Hmm.
That we are not outside of life, we are not outside of nature, and I know that when I'm in the best aspects of myself, I feel as though the end of the story is already written. I can feel it. It
Hmm.
feels like a very physical thing. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, the end of the story is already written, and it's a good one.
Hmm.
And I'm some way along the path towards the fulfillment of that story, and there is no fear
Hmm.
because all of life is one. All of life is connected.
Yeah.
And so at the level of the city, it becomes unity. It becomes a yielding into and an awareness of the divine feminine. Um, there is no polarity at the heart of life. There is
Hmm.
no good and bad and male and female and all of these other things that we create. There's no separation. And so the two at the gift and the civic level is about an awareness of unity, an awareness of being part of something that we can never not be part of. There's
Hmm.
nothing to do to make yourself included. There's
Hmm.
nothing you can do that will disclude yourself.
Right. So
And
oh, I was just I thought you finished. Sorry.
well, there's always more.
Oh.
And I mean, I think this is perhaps why, some of the most mystical moments of my life where I felt most connected have been in nature.
Hmm.
So it's, I think, that two the two in me, which I do love, and there's that sense of, there's there's those moments where I feel completely apart from life and lost, but then there are those moments when I feel reoriented, so to speak. I was disoriented and now I'm reoriented. I know
Hmm.
where I'm going and I know where the world is going.
Yeah. So let's move on to number 8. So what is it about number 8 that you can tell us, and what makes it so unique?
8 is the journey from mediocrity to exquisiteness via the
Ooh,
way of style.
that sounds awesome.
It is. and it bites us in the butt big time. This is in our throat, the
Mm-hmm.
thyroid. And at the level of the shadow, mediocrity is the fear that we all experience of being different.
Mm.
And so at the shadow level, the fear level, we consciously stifle our own individuality because we're so afraid of being different. We prefer mediocrity that doesn't set us apart. We prefer that and squander our potential because we are too afraid to show up as our unique selves.
Mm-hmm.
So that fear keeps us thinking programmed. It keeps us inside the matrix. It serves the machinery of society as we've set society up to this point.
Right.
It prevents us from being heroic in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, whether I don't have eight, but I can certainly relate to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I
I
think
think we
we all
can,
can.
yeah,
Anybody that
exactly.
was a teenager can.
And so when we emerge into a place beyond fear,
Mm-hmm.
we emerge into a place where we can express ourselves with our own uniqueness. We develop our own unique style. It's about having faith in your own deep and vibrant nature, which gives way to the flowering of individuality. The joy of breaking out of that mediocre energy. That's what style is. It's the cutting edge of creativity. Um, and it's often considered dangerous by society because it feels wild. It feels like there's nothing that is, it feels effervescent. It feels wild. It feels like it has some of that wildness of nature. Um, and I like what Richard Rudd says. He says, people who have the gift of style, they're like insiders to the secret processes of life. And that style that they show up with it's contagious, it's beautiful, it's wild, it's riveting. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty.
just, yeah, it's like, oh, I wish I could dress like that, or oh, I wish I could, have the courage to go get a tattoo. Oh, I wish I could, you know what I mean? Like people look at people who are unique in their style and doing things a different way, and we love it. But then
Yeah,
those that are uncomfortable with change or being outside the box are the ones that are very judgmental of it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, this is funny too, because this is where the trap is. We might see somebody who's really stylish, who has that innate creativity, and they've allowed themselves to have that. And then we think, oh, I want to be like that. And
Hmm.
then we try and be like that. But the thing is, true style is not copyable.
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
you have to find your own way into your own style, into your own uniqueness. And it's, um, if we're copying somebody, if somebody inspires us, we can try and bring that out in ourselves, but we're not going to find it by copying what they've done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
And I mean, at the highest level, this becomes a kind of exquisiteness. It's a hard word to describe. It's like, um, it's like something that you admire for its incredible incomparability. I don't know why, but I'm thinking of the flower of freesias. I love freesias. It's like there is nothing to compare to a rose or a freesia or you or me or anybody who's living and expressing their true individuality. Now,
Hmm.
these people, when they express this energy, they don't become leaders. They become examples. They become contagious. They become, and I mean, the eight is part of what's called the cross of contagion. You just are so enthralled by them.
It's just because they're being themselves, right? They're
Mhm.
being authentic and they're stepping into their uniqueness. And I think that's what everybody admires, that somebody can actually just express themselves and be okay with being themselves, right? Yeah.
And when you're in that energy, there's no thought of even wanting to criticize it,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Because it's just like, wow,
Mhm.
wow, you
Mhm.
know. It's only when we're in our fear that we want to criticize that wildness, that uniqueness, that beauty in the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would we even do that?
Mhm.
You know, it's
Exactly.
so this kind of exquisiteness. It's not. There's no method to it. There's no meaning to it. It's just the delightfulness of life showing up in the expression of the being who's tapped into that energy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything you want to say as we wrap here about the Ring of Water that we haven't covered?
Well, I just think that these are two very feminine gifts, and it does. There's real value in contemplating the gifts of the feminine through these two gene keys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a very healing thing, I think, to reflect on that energy, which is slowly getting more, is slowly being, we're making more room for it slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so the only thing else I would say is, next week we are doing, we move on to what is called the Ring of Prosperity, age
Oh,
16 and 45.
wow. Lots of people should be watching that one. I think that's what everybody's looking for these days. Um, with that, if anybody is looking to dive into their charts deeper, you can give us a call here at Clarity and book an appointment with Hartwell, 587-596-3333. Also, just want to mention something that Clarity is sponsoring and doing this Sunday from 12 to 3. We're doing a mystical magical fair for parents and kids. So it's a really good time to come out and express and experiment with a bunch of different things that you normally don't have contact with. So we look forward to entertaining the parents and children this weekend. Um, so with that, Hartwell and I are going to sign off, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 9 a.m. God bless.